Ever feel like your improv scenes just fall flat and they're missing that special something that's gonna make them unforgettable? Well, if that's the case, then stick around because today I am revealing the top 5 tools that I always use to make my scenes the best that they can be. Of course, when I'm in a scene, I'm doing all the strong basic things that we should be doing, saying yes and, building a relationship, making my partner look good, using the environment, so on and so forth. But the 5 tools I'm sharing with you today are particular to the way that I improvise, and I think you might find them useful. And let's be clear, this is not a bag of tricks. These are just 5 tools that I know that I rely on and come back to again and again in all kinds of different ways. Here's the first tool. Whenever I come into a scene, I try to say the names of the other characters in the scene or give them names if they haven't been named yet. Saying someone's name gives you so many different ways to build relationship sort of based on the way that you say that name. Names are super personal and super powerful, especially when it comes to building relationships and expressing character. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a show where I was playing an old man who was living in a nursing home, and I had a partner who was also living in the nursing home with me. And also in the scene, there was an orderly. Now, I ended up naming him Mike, but then my partner doubled down on that and called him Orderly Mike. And suddenly that was so powerful because we ended up using his name almost like a threat to him. What do you think about that, Orderly Mike? What are you gonna do about that, Orderly Mike? And it added such a great texture to the scene. Also, if I have the chance to say my own character's name in the scene or to name my own character, I definitely love to do that because there is no sound sweeter to us than the sound of our own name. And the way that we say our own name sort of expresses so much about our character and how we feel about ourselves. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a rehearsal and I was playing this kind of cool guy and I got the chance to name myself Mike Flynn. As the scenes went on, I got into a groove of saying my own name, and not just my first name, my entire name, Mike Flynn, over and over again. And those two affectations, saying my own name and saying my entire name, really shaped my character throughout the entire piece that we were doing. Now, the second tool builds off of the environment. Now, if you've been watching Improv Tips for any amount of time at all, then you know what a strong advocate I am of using the environment in your scenes. It takes your scenes from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional, and I like to go even deeper into the environment. In that same rehearsal where I played Mike Flynn, I also was in a scene where I reunited with my old high school girlfriend, and we were going back to the woods where we had carved our initials into a tree. So we got to the tree and we sort of like ran our fingers through the initials as you would expect to do. And that was great. That was all great environment work. But as we were standing there talking, I started feeling more and more relaxed. So I just went one step further and I leaned on the tree. And then I reclined all the way back on the tree and just added a little something extra to the environment. Now, this is something that I learned years and years ago when I was first learning the improvised movie from Matt Besser. It's called +1 the environment. Right? So you have that thing in the environment that you expect to do. You come to the tree, you see the initials, you maybe run your fingers through it, but then what? Can we +1 that? Can we add a little something to it? In my case, it was sort of reclining on the tree. Let's say someone hands me a cup of coffee in a scene. Now I can take the cup of coffee, that's good space work, but then I can also +1 it. Can I feel how hot the cup is? Can I deal with how tricky it is to balance the cup and saucer together, right? Those are +1s on this idea of a cup of coffee. I love this tool because it helps me explore the environment so much more and also to explore my character through the environment. Here's the third tool. Last night, I was in a show where I was playing a sergeant major who was giving advice to the wife of a serviceman. Along the course of the scene, she asked if I was single. Now, rather than just saying yes or no, I took that in, I let it land, I had a feeling about that, and then I tried to like really deepen that feeling. And then I spoke from that place that yes, I was single and I had feelings about that. I wanted to settle down. I wanted to be with someone. And even though I had won all these medals and had such a distinguished career, now I wanted to be a warrior for love. When I'm in a scene and someone gives out information, especially information about my character, I try to have a personal feeling about that. What does it mean? How does it affect me? What does it stir up in me? By having that personal feeling about every piece of information that comes along, I'm energizing every single line as I go. And that transforms what's being said from sheer information into character information or relationship information. So everything that's being said in the scene is now building my character, their character, or the relationship between us. Now, I usually shorthand this tool by simply calling it take everything personally. Now, I've done tons of shows over the years, but there's 2 shows that really stand out to me as really clear examples of this fourth tool. Now, a couple years ago, I was doing a Beer Shark Mice show, and I had a character named Randy, who was sort of dumb but well-intentioned. And we were in a bar, and the phone rang, and someone had to answer the phone. So my character, Randy, said, "This is Randy's time to shine," and ran to answer the phone. Right? And that kind of like summarized his character. And so whenever like a little opportunity to show off or to prove himself would come up, he would say, "It's Randy's time to shine." And so what this does is by returning to this, either phrase or gesture, it's like a character refrain. Like in a song where there's that piece of the song that we keep coming back to, that recognizable piece where you're like, "Oh, I know that song," right? So we have this character refrain that we keep coming back to, and that really helps us stay super clear, super sharp, and super focused on who and what our character is. I don't know about you, but I've been in tons of scenes where I've come in super sharp, but then over the course of the scene, I keep losing more and more focus on the scene till by the end of the scene, I'm just kind of playing myself, right? But this fourth tool, character refrain, really helps you periodically refocus your character throughout the scene and keep it super clear and super focused for the entire length of the piece. The fifth tool is something that I use all the time. It's called physicalizing what I'm saying. It's not a great name, but it is a great tool. So what does that mean? Well, for example, last night in the show where I was playing the Sergeant Major, I had won a bunch of medals during the war, and I pointed to a display case where they were. And by pointing to the display case, now that thing that I was saying had a physical representation, and that makes it so much more useful in the scene. I can keep referencing it as sort of authority for myself. Someone else could come in and they could smash the medals or they could steal the medals, but none of that happens if we aren't physicalizing what we're saying. And this can go even deeper too. In a rehearsal, I was playing an artist who folded origami animals, and it also came out that my character was super insightful about people. So I combined those two things together, and when I was in a scene with someone, I would fold an origami animal that said something very deep about their character or their fears or their future, and then it had a physical representation. So I wasn't just saying that thing, it also had this physical representation now, this origami animal. And then from there now, they could hold it close to their heart, they could crumple it up and throw it away, they could throw it back in my face. But again, none of that would happen if I hadn't physicalized those things that I was saying. So those are my top 5 tools: names, +1 on the environment, taking things personally, character refrain, and physicalizing the things that you're saying. Now, if you are looking for another tool that you can incorporate into your work right away, check out this video here, because I'm sharing one of my absolute favorite tools that you can use to take a dying scene and completely bring it back to life. Thanks for watching.